How's it going, everybody? Take a look. It's probably my favorite part of the boat project is when we mark the end of grinding. Overall, there's probably still going to be some little spots that I need to grind. Like, for example, right there where the floor meets this section right there. Probably need to grind some of that gel coat off. And then like around this area, when I put that piece of plywood over here, when we bond it from the marine grade plywood over to this area, I'll probably need to grind some of this gel coat off as well. So overall, like in terms of the floor, the real messy stuff, all that grinding is done. And specifically the part that meets the transom area over here. A lot of work, a lot of different tools. You saw in my prior video all the different tools that I use. It is a super long process. Finally got all the foam. You can see along the sides, all the foam is gone as well. The only thing that needs to be done before I start reinstalling the floor, we'll talk about that too as we progress to the floor install, is we use acetone a lot to kind of clean up any kind of residual paint that may be on, like especially like this area here. You can see where I ground it, but there's still some spots where there's paint in there. This is not a big deal because this will all be covered, but we still want to make sure if there's any polyester resin that gets on here, it's got something to stick to. And I tell you what, I ground a lot in this area and we still had some residual, so acetone will clean up that for the most part. What we're gonna do today is, again, my favorite part. And what we're gonna show you how to do is how to make a new transom. This is a first for me on an outboard. I've done this on the inboard outboards multiple times. Not a big deal, but this is my first attempt to do it on this style boat. So it's gonna be interesting. The popsicle sticks that I have here, the glue gun, bunch of extra glue, and then a little tool to cut the popsicle sticks are what we use to put on the perimeter all the way down, right? And all the way around. And I'll even run popsicle sticks over here along this perimeter, so I know and I build a template for what this transom is gonna look like. You know, this shape, I tell you what, is gonna be a very irregular shape. So we're gonna have to build it. It's gonna be custom, just like anything else we do in this boat. As far as I know, what you all are thinking here is the thickness. We're not gonna worry about that right now because I can always trim this. Like this area I can trim some of this, but not really worried about that right now. What I wanna do is get the initial cut, right? The shape of it made, and we'll drop it in here, just a single sheet of 1/2-inch marine grade plywood. I'll show you all that probably in the next episode. And we'll drop that in here, make sure it fits. Make sure this line up here is straight. And as long as all that matches up, then we'll work on building up the different layers. I think this is probably gonna be about maybe, I don't know, like 1.5 inches, something like that. And we'll do that. We'll talk about that more as we get closer. But ultimately, I'm super excited. Like I said, if you've seen on some of my prior videos where we bust out the popsicles, it's pretty much a huge milestone in this Glastron nightmare, because once we get to the popsicle sticks, that means we're done overall with grinding, which is horrible. It's probably the worst part, in my opinion, of the entire boat rebuild because it gets everywhere. It's all over the ground. Take a look here. I mean, this was, I don't even know, probably about a week ago. It ruins everything. It takes forever for that stuff to go away and to break down. And it's been raining here kind of pretty often. So anyway, let's go ahead. The glue gun is just about heated up. I'm going to tell you some things to keep a lookout for with the glue gun that can affect your transom that you need to pay attention to. It's going to be a critical moment. So as you're watching through this video, maybe skipping through it, just make sure you pay attention to this next part that we're going to talk to about the glue gun, because it could really mess up your transom. I know it's something silly like a glue gun, but if you do something wrong, I'll show you what I mean. But I need to get in the boat and we'll get underneath here And I don't even need to have my respirator on, which is awesome because it's all clean, right? So anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in this boat. Here, keep an eye out where the glue is that's on here, because like I said, if you leave the glue in place in some places that it's not supposed to, polyester resin, which is what we're using on this boat rebuild, even epoxy, it won't stick to it. So it'll cause some problems, and I'll show you some tricks as we get in here. You can see, as it's been raining here, we got a little bit of residual stuff here. It shouldn't affect the popsicle sticks, but I will take some of my shop towels and clean this area up real good and get it nice and clean. And then our glue gun, definitely don't recommend you doing all this at home. The glue gun is still cold, so we'll make sure that that's plugged in, and then we'll start the process of using the popsicle sticks. It's a pretty easy process, but just want to make sure you all can see it. So as you're doing this yourself, you got a pretty good walkthrough on how to do something like this. Here's how we start. We got lucky on this one. It happens to be the exact length of a popsicle stick. So what we're gonna do is we are going to then build the next contour from here. You can either go either side, it's not a big deal on which side you go, but you would do something like this for the next piece. Now the big question is, how much space do you leave underneath it? And it's not a big deal to worry about that on the first go around, but this is kind of what we're gonna go for here. Now, where does the glue gun come into place is probably around this time. Like when we put these in, I'm gonna glue these like right there. So I'll move this out of the way and glue this section here. One of the things that you can do, and this is what I was talking about when I said it's kind of one of those critical moments, is you don't want to forget where you glue this part of the template to the transom. And the reason being is that glue, if you happen to leave it on the transom when you set the new one in, that polyester resin won't be able to stick in that area, and you could run into like these type of stress cracks. So what I'm going to do here, and I'll show you, is you don't want to go overboard. You just want to put enough on here where it will hold the entire template. And we're going to take this and stick it to the actual transom, and just give it a little bit to kind of take effect here, take a hold. And you can see this one doesn't want to stick too well for whatever reason. And I'll tell you what, if you only get one point of contact that wants to stick, it's not a big deal. But we'll probably pull this one off. You can see it didn't want to stick on that first attempt. Transom could be dirty, it's hard to say. I haven't used acetone on it yet. And is it a bad idea to use it right now? Probably not, it's just maybe a waste. Let's go ahead and try to put a little bit more on it. It may just not be even for whatever reason, right? The transom's off. If you look right there, you may not be able to see it in the video, but it's a little indented, and it happens to be indented there too. So I bet you that's what it was. Now you see like there's a little gap underneath here. It's not perfect. Whatever you do, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. It really isn't, because you'll see when we start adding the polyester resin mixed with the chop strand and the cabosil, it takes up any kind of gap that's in here, so it's really not even a big deal. All right, let's go ahead. It's had enough time. And notice now, we're gonna go ahead and start Let's take a look. See, that one's kind of pointed a little bit too high up. So we'll lower it down. Just make sure that that's, yep, and that one's fine. Let's go ahead. All right. And you can't see it, but off camera, I have that glue gun on a paper towel, so it's not just sitting on the floor. And you can see, if you look at this angle here, it's kind of like a really weird angle that's showing up. That's not a problem either. When we go to draw this transom out on a piece of plywood, we will draw a singular line from this point over here. So it'll take up the difference. So don't worry about it. There's going to be a lot of wiggle room. And even the little piece of transom, the 1/2-inch marine grade plywood, we'll end up having to trim it up a little bit, but this will give us the base look of it. Before we do this one, I can tell you right now, it looks like it's going to be a little, and the shape's going to be a little off here. So you may think that you're going to cut right there, but you actually don't. And you see how it's uneven right there as well. Not a big deal. So that corner looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and take that out. I need another glue stick here. Okay. And let's go ahead. Make sure it's in that corner real good. Corner looks decent. Like I said, that little gap right there, don't worry about it. We know when we're making the shape, we're going to do a straight line here, so it's not a big deal to be off a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put in another glue stick. I think we're a little low. Actually, it's not too bad. Let's go ahead put a little bit of glue here. Looks like we're running. Okay, let's go ahead and grab another. Okay, same thing here. About right there in that corner. So here's what we got so far. This is how you do it. And then now we're gonna build the vertical as well. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. All right, and this is basically what we're looking at doing here. You can see the popsicle stick's a little bit past, and we want the line to be about like about right there. So like I said, when we pull the template out, we'll know to cut that. So let's go ahead, grab our glue gun, and I will go ahead and put a little stick of glue on that. All right, here it goes. So get this guy out of the way. We know it's going to be about right here. And I'll hold that for just a little bit. You can see towards the top, there's not much more we have to do there. Okay, cool. Now for this next part, you can kind of see it's a little flimsy, right? So I'm gonna try doing this like so here. Add in, this way it goes all the way to the top, about like that. Easy, right? It looks like it's holding steady. If we do need to grind a little bit here, it's not a problem, but at least it's flush. And like I said, we'll likely cut that little corner off. Let's go ahead now and flip the sides. Grab an extra 2 sticks over here. Same thing with our glue gun. Put a little bit over here. All right. Now this one, we want to make sure we capture the edge as much as we can. This one looks like it is going all the way to the very end. So this one is good. All right. It only takes a few seconds to dry if you've never used these type of glue sticks before, or glue guns, I guess, in general. All right, last piece here. Just try to make sure you line it right up to the top up there. It looks like we're good. Hold it in place. All right. Angle it just a little bit right there. Okay. What do you think? Tried to do it all in one shot so you could see it. And not necessarily how easy it is, but maybe how simple the process is. Let's go ahead now. I'm gonna take my glue gun, put it up top, and let's show you how to do the top section of it. And then before we pull this whole thing out, we do need to mark it left to right. So what I did here is I did glue this top portion of the popsicle stick that you just saw on both sides. I did glue that to the actual transom itself. We'll go over it again, but we're gonna mark all the places that we put glue so we know specifically to come back later and take the glue off. Specifically on the transom itself. So, okay. There's enough glue over there. Let's grab a popsicle stick. Try to flush it up as much as you can. Let's see if I can get a better angle here for you. And see if we can come up a little bit. It looks like the transom itself is not 100% straight. We may end up having to sand the top up a little bit. So it's about like that. And this is why we glue it, because you'll start to see it wants to kind of drift down. By the time we connect it by both sides here, it'll be a little bit more accurate. All right, that's why you want to make sure you got a good amount of glue on that so you don't run into any issues. Grabbing a glue stick. All right, and then same thing here, just flushing it up with the top. Doesn't have to be perfect, just needs to be accurate. What do you think? All right, give it a second. All right. Now we shouldn't need too many more. Maybe one here. And it may touch with that one, I don't know, we'll see. Your goal shouldn't be to use this least amount of glue sticks or popsicle sticks. It should be just enough so you can get the job done. So keep that in mind. All right, let's see if I can extend this out here. And then I need to raise that up just a tad. Again, either the popsicle stick isn't 100% even, or it may be the transom, but either way we'll glue that. If you see the little strings hanging out, I wouldn't worry about that in terms of that ruining everything. On the transom, those things stick out like a sore thumb. Like here, you can see them. They're real easy to grab. All right, and let's see real quick if this popsicle stick, yeah, it doesn't look like it is. It's gonna be long enough. And I want this template to be pretty accurate, so let's go ahead and put a little bit here. And then let's go ahead and grab our popsicle stick. And you can see, got a little bit of a gap there, but we'll fill that in with an additional popsicle stick. Give this a second to cure. Looks like we're pretty much there. All right, and here is last but not least. Okay. Good. Yeah, just like that. All right. And then I'll probably put a little bit of glue in between there and this popsicle stick, because you can see there's a little bit of flex. And when I pull this thing out, I want to make sure that it doesn't break. So anyway, let's go ahead and I'm going to grab a marker and I'm going to show you some spots and some things that we need to do in terms of marking on this. You can see with my handwriting, use a permanent marker, and I wrote glue. And you notice on the actual boat itself, I did an R for right here. Same thing, I wrote left. There's some more spots where I did the glue. And then to the right, to finish this project off here, or the template piece off, we're gonna go ahead and slowly unattach the template. And if everything held up right, like it did, you shouldn't break anything here. All right, and then let's see if we can unattach that part too. All right, let's see if we can get to it. Looks like the template kind of wants to pull apart right there. And then let's see if we can get this one off without breaking it. Got it. And then let's see if we can do this one. Got it. And let's see how it's gonna come out. Oh yeah, very nice. Like that. Let's go ahead, lay it inside the boat. All right, so this is your chance now to come in with your glue gun. And while everything's fresh in your mind, go ahead and glue up these various seams. We also need to come in and trim this section, and I think we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead, take my glue gun here. Like I said, I've got a lot of extra glue sticks, so just put a little bit in there. Be careful, like I said, not to get any on the boat itself. All right, that one's good. Just kind of make it where you don't need to glue both sides either, by the way. Just kind of get it where your template doesn't accidentally come apart on you. All right, let's get all these various seams here. I know it doesn't look like much, but this will get it to hold pretty good, especially as you put it on the actual marine grade plywood. You're going to take this on and off a few times, so it may be important you do this. All right, here we go. And I have had my template break a few times. That's why it reminded me this time I need to go in, reinforce it a little bit. Okay, cool. I'm going to set my glue gun down. I'm going to grab this guy and we'll go ahead and trim this little section off. And then, believe it or not, I'm going to put this thing back in and make sure one last time that it looks visually correct. it's all glued up. Cut the corner off there, let it dry. Let's go ahead and pick it up, make sure it doesn't break. And we will roll it in place like so. And keep in mind this time it doesn't have any glue holding the edges on, so it's just going to be kind of set in place. You can see that side is a little low and this side is dead on. But keep in mind, this whole section can rotate like it did a little bit. And it looks good. Checking that side, it looks good. The top is accurate. So anyway, that is it. That is how you make a template for your transom. It doesn't matter if it's an outboard, if it's an inboard, outboard. This is how you do it. This is how I do it. And it's my third attempt at doing this with popsicle sticks, and it's worked out every single time. So hope you liked the video. Hit that subscribe button, like it, leave some comments. Let me know what you think. And if you want to see the links to my other times that I've done this before on a lot larger scale, let me know. I'll post a comment with the link to that in the description. Catch you on the next episode, everybody. Happy boating. We'll see you later.